So are you the operator, dude, or are you the visionary? Like
So it
in
depends
all
on the
of it?
business. I have a few businesses. Yeah. In
Yeah.
Investor Machine, we have, over 85 employees now. So I'm the CEO. Jason's the COO. But we have a big team. We've got a lot of people that are helping. From we're an operation. We're a data and operations company, right? So
Yeah,
I handle the sales and marketing, but that in that business, that's one of the easier parts of the business.
for sure.
In some businesses, sales and marketing is everything, and it's critical in every business. But um, for Investor Fuel, we're super lean, and I have a couple people on my team that help with a lot of stuff. But I'm the visionary and the operator and all that. That probably will have to change at some point. I probably need a operations person, COO, or you know director of operations or something like that. If I could find that person, I would snap my fingers. They'd be here right now. But it's one of those things that has probably been needed for a couple of years, but I'm still sitting in that seat.
Okay. And shout out Anna. Anna, you're the best.
Yeah, and you'll meet Hannah too. I have a Hannah and an Anna, and they're both awesome.
All right. So what's the biggest thing in wholesaling is that is a sales business, and I personally feel the operations are pretty simple compared to the other things that we do.
Sure. Yeah.
As compared to, I know with machine, there's a lot of moving parts in all of that. What's it like being like? What's it like doing both, integrator and visionary? And how do you develop the integrator skills? Because I have none. Like I am the guy who throws everything over the fence, and then I come up with
Yeah.
cool new ideas.
Yeah, it's tough. It stops like I pause now when I have an idea. I'll say this. I used to be like I would have an idea and I would say to my wife, for a long time we were primarily flipping houses, had rentals, and then started to bolt on coaching. I've done a ton of coaching over the years that I don't do anymore. But I would often say, um, "Hey, I've got a new idea. I've got this idea," and from my wife's standpoint, as the operator and a mom, who has like two jobs, right? It would really stress her out. And it took me a couple of years to kind of realize that as like, I should let these things bake a little bit more before I talk about them. And then, at one point along the way, she said, "Hey, can you just say, I like, don't just say I have a new idea. Say I have this idea. I don't want to do anything with it yet, but just kind of preface it as just like, it's just in the back of my head." And I've gotten to the point now to where I'm able to do that internally. I've got some ideas. I'll write it down. I journal it a little bit. I kick it around. I've got journals loaded with thoughts and
Yeah.
ideas, right? And truthfully, if you're an idea guy, it sounds like you are too. Like some of the stuff you'll write down and you'll go back to it a couple days later and you're like, that was a
Yeah.
dumb idea. Or like, that's not a big enough opportunity to just get distracted from what else I've got going on or whatever. So what I try to do now, it used to be like maybe all over the board a little bit more, like different ideas. And now what I really try to do is if I have new ideas, I try to do it inside of the bounds of one of my existing businesses. It could be like a new product, like for Investor Machine. It could be a new group, like we added on some multifamily groups inside of Investor Fuel.
Okay.
And so things like that, instead of like, hey, I want to go start a VA company. Because I've thought about that before. I've thought about it for years, but I was like, that's a totally different business. Like I don't, just don't want to go there. Or I find somebody that has a VA business would be good. And like, hey man, I think if I come on and I can help you 5 or 10x that thing in the next 18 months, which I haven't
Exactly.
done, but I'm just saying I would rather partner with people now that can play that role.
Exactly.
That's especially somebody that I see that's more of an operator, more of an integrator, because they won't need another visionary, right? That's just going to bump heads.
What's your like predictive index?
Maverick.
Maverick, same.
Yeah. But a lot of times you adapt. Like even if these are your tendencies, you still adapt to something if it has to get done. And I think probably for several years now, I've adapted to be more, not an integrator, but just more minded of the complications that I'm creating when I come up with a new idea. And so I'm more mindful of it because I had to be.
Yeah. And so when you say minded on those ideas, do you take the problem, you work out, like you think out the operations, and then like, okay, I've thought it through. I see what the complications would look like. Yeah, let's throw it out there.
Maybe. But the thing is can you even think it all the way through? Like I tend to be like like a lot of us are quick starters.
Yeah.
Like I'll start something and if it was a house, I'd have a neighborhood full of like houses with a foundation and they're framed up a little bit, but they're in varying
100%.
varying states of like, not even being close to done, but they got started, right? So I don't want to do that. In an ideal world, what I would really love to do, I mean, what I really love to do now is just do what I'm doing. I really am trying to focus on sticking with what I've got because I've got some great things going. So I'm not really looking for anything new. But there's part of me that's like, someday, if I were to, start to do some other things, so like buy businesses and
Yep.
flip businesses, right, or start some new things. Even what I'd really love is to get really good at hiring operations people, and I find like one kick-ass COO, and part of his job is find more people like you, and I'll find a way to keep you guys busy. Like, but that's in the next life, whenever that is.